So I just finished the day watching a podcast of a 15-year-old getting religious on some porn stars. Number one, I have to say, from his perspective, he doesn't respect what they do. So even though they're older than him, he can't imagine taking any advice from them in regards to respect because of their line of work. If anything, they're only showing him what not to do. He is not at an age yet where he has any reason to really. They kind of came at him, so just the fact that they were willing to try to pull that card is telling. There was that was really what I wanted to get at, was that, you know, they're talking about it being a Christian channel and this or that, and I'm pretty sure that Mother Mary was a prostitute, and and so, like, I've actually heard a Christian man say once that that actually Christians are judgmental. Like, that is a part of a Christian's nature, is to be judgmental. And then yet there's also this idea that everybody will be saved. So what is there to ultimately judge, and can anything really be a sin then if anybody can just be saved in the long run? I think when it comes to being saved, we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to save ourselves? Are we willing to like, I was watching another video of a mother who really deserved to, like, kind of vent for a minute. She said she had been sick for days, and when she was able to finally clean, she just kind of had this epiphany that nobody was doing their part and cleaning up after themselves, and I don't even know. I don't even, like, I don't know what my point was. But at first it's kind of funny, because everybody is innocent, because nobody in that room really knew each other. Only a few people knew a few people, and kind of put each other in a room to see what would happen. And I think that this is interesting because it's Women's History Month, and feminism, is a part of that, and they're calling these women feminists, and I'm pretty sure, like, being there for ourselves can be translated as being selfish, but the question is like, what is more selfish? Like, I don't know, do you want to... Oh, that was what I was thinking of. The woman was talking about how she would die for her kids. The house mom that was sick, she was saying, I would die for my kids. And I realized, she is dying for her kids. She's so sick, and nobody's helping her, and she's still working herself to death for her kids and her family. That is what she's doing. And so, even though it's not in the way that we, like, envision it, like just this immediate ending, it's like there's something else that's, like, she's not able to rest. She's not able to get to replenish herself, and everybody else in her family is being able to do that, and they're all going to be able to flourish. Now in this podcast, they started asking everybody about their parents. They didn't ask this kid, the 15-year-old, about his parents. And, you know, that is all very implying, all those questions imply things, well, because of these relationships, you know, is this why we are where we are? And if there's one thing that I've learned in life, it's like, if you're standing in a feed line at a church, excuse me, I'm actually not looking through the video, I'm looking outwards, so that's why the video's not balanced. But I realized it doesn't matter like where we all come from, we all have these different stories, yet here we are standing in the feed line needing food from a church, regardless of like how far we've fallen from the top of our tower, you know. And the same goes for building the tower, you know, and hopefully the towers that we build aren't ones that have to come crashing down, you know. I've studied the tarot, so I'm definitely using a tarot reference right now, but ultimately in that podcast conversation, nobody really needs to explain themselves, because nobody's in any position to judge the other. I think like in healthy conversations, we are able to say why we like and dislike things without it being taken to a level of being offended. And I recently heard a way of learning to react when you're triggered is to deep breathe into your belly, and then to identify and say, okay, I'm going to observe the part of myself that tells me that this is a personal attack against me, and now I'm going to accept myself. And those are the three parts: the breathing, the identification, and the acceptance. And I notice in the conversations, in a lot of the big important conversations that people are trying to have, everybody gets triggered so quickly that the conversation goes nowhere. And that it just goes to show that people care, but it also shows that people are unaware of themselves. As if the conversation needs to be had by people who want to be a part of it, and you know, but the conversation almost can't be had if people aren't even aware of themselves. It's like you should never act out of anger, and you know, it's like they say, don't go to sleep out of anger. Though I will say, sometimes napping really does help me when I'm angry. Like, it's like I can kind of just sleep for a minute, but sometimes it doesn't too, because I wake up thinking about things still, and so I don't know. But I think what's important to remember is, like, when people are talking about hell and like sin, is that like hell and sin is a state of mind and being. It's not forever, you know, and I think that's what people like. It sounds extreme, especially if religious speak. It can be very triggering for people. So I don't know, the meaning of like hell and sin, you know, is just kind of like, it's in one's own consciousness, you know. I can't tell you what your hell would be like. You don't know what my hell is like. I can reveal parts of it to you by telling you my fears and my insecurities, and you know, but ultimately, like, it's in my own, you know. And just like I know in my heart if I'm sinning, because I know if I'm intentionally doing something wrong. And I think we quickly can realize if we are doing the wrong thing, if we don't know otherwise, you know, or someone will tell us. And sometimes people tell us that we're doing the wrong thing when we are not. And sometimes people tell us we're doing the right thing when we are not. And especially like, groupthink can be very dangerous, but sometimes it's hard to tell, like, what, you know, it's like, I find myself doubting my connection with the good Lord when I feel isolated, because in psychology, they tell us that like that's a red flag in relationships when you become isolated, and so like, but in the spiritual realm, they say that isolation is actually what's building you, and sometimes I find that that kind of devotion and faith asks me to like give up my common sense, and that's actually really important to have, like your just kind of instincts and intuition, and it can feel like a little bit being like a puppet if you can never fully trust. Like I mean, that's big trust, right? Like waiting for God to tell you when to move, and that I think most of the time is proven to be a good thing, because God leads you in the right direction. Whereas like a man or a woman who is isolating somebody or isolating themselves maybe is relying on the human intellect, and that is not enough to actually get through what the isolation is about. God is what gets you through the isolation. So yeah. The other thing that came up for me with this podcast with this little kid, who's clearly like very intelligent, and speaks like a man, in some ways, but it made me kind of actually think of the Greta Thunberg phenomena, and she really did have a big voice in the media for a while. So I'm interested. Like, it's kind of, I guess I won't really be surprised to see if anything comes of him, because the media has this weird way of like making these kind of little characters and martyrs out of these people who are like Greta Thunberg and this young man are young. They really are. And so what happens with young people is that there's like two ways they can go. It's like you don't want to discourage somebody from their passions, and at the same time they are being exposed to things that the older people really do already know about. The kid is reminding the older people of the truth of those passions, like of the of what's right and wrong, because the kid's going, wait a second, like whether it's Greta Thunberg saying to us like, we need to save this planet, or like, you're not leaving anything for your fucking future generations, or this kid saying to these individuals like, you're sinning for money is what you're doing, like, and calling it God, Christian, and so they're reminding the older people in their lives of what these morals are, and it's hard for it's generally like people eat it up because it's like nice and refreshing to hear, but it seems like it's actually kind of a cruel joke, because the people that are eating it up don't actually really change. Like the younger one that's bringing the attention to the morals has to change, and that's kind of like, I hope that people like Greta Thunberg and this kid like are able to be blessed and protected, and that their passions like don't be used against them, and like not yeah. And as for the older people who were like, he was dogging on these chicks, and the manager, and even I have to say, like, I didn't like how they were coming at him for being 15, like something that he can't help. He can't help that he's 15 years old. He was invited on the show just as much as they were, and there was a point in the show where everybody was eating but him. Everybody had food but him. he passed out hats to everybody, and Jewish hats, and it was just a weird exchange of information, and that's really all it was. It was an exchange of information. I hope that everybody in that room be blessed, and that if they there's this air of opportunity, and I think that it's really cool that these podcasts allow for conversations and for people to listen to them, and the podcasts give people enough space to kind of think about what is being said without having, because if they do get emotional, they have to sit down and make a video about it, or write out a response, and they have to really think about, everybody has to really think about what's being said to each other, and what is the point and of these conversations, in you just want people to be happy and healthy and safe. And it's crazy how you're sitting here listening to these people say, yeah, but we get this money and everybody changes, everybody loves us all of a sudden. And then you have other celebrities who are definitely more well known, I would or been around longer at least, because these people are all fresh out of high school, so not even much older than a 15-year-old. But these celebrities have said, money, it just buys you more things. It doesn't actually do anything. I would rather, have a more humble existence, and it's true. I mean, I just, it seems like that seems to be the choice. Either choose money, that was a part of the conversation. Does money buy happiness? And apparently to this group of people, it does. And then, to other groups of people who do have access to money, it doesn't actually do anything. It just buys more stuff and more places to store it in. Yeah, they're talking about charities, and how charities are a scam. And so I don't know. I definitely think there are some good charities. I'm I like to directly help, because then I know so if I give money, I'll give it to somebody to their face. If I see a homeless person, it's direct. I know where my money's going. But I have done a few charities online, not a lot at all, just a few times, and just because it was just felt like the right thing to do at the time. But I mean, if I had more, I probably would put that on my priority list, but I am at the point in life where I'm learning how to make sure my cup is filled before I start pouring into others. And so that is a challenging task, because I enjoy pouring my cup into people's cups. So with that said, thank you for listening, and peace be with you.